Okay, we're back from closed session. City Attorney, is there any reportable action?
Yes, the council voted 3-1 to reject the claim by Mayor Scott Robinson for an indemnification and hold harmless agreement. And the council also recommended the hiring of outside counsel to review complaints by Mayor Scott Robinson. And that was the only reportable action.
Okay, and I'll be getting that in writing from the city.
Yes, I will provide that in writing to you.
Okay. All right, with that, we will adjourn the Selma City Council special meeting. And we will immediately go, given the somewhat lateness of the hour, it's 6:03, into the regular meeting on April 17, 2023. It's 6:03 p.m. We're in the Selma, oh, that clock is slow, 6:08 p.m. Selma City Council Chambers, 1710 Tucker Street, Selma, California, 93662. The teleconference phone number is 1-301-715-8592. The webinar ID is 891-6864-5005. When on the phone, if you wish to address the council during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 to raise hand and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press *6 to unmute and mute yourself. Okay, tonight our invocation will be led by Pastor Kiloa Kaliapano from the Christ-Driven Assembly of God. Welcome, Pastor. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, Council, Mayor. It's good to see everybody. Well, before I pray, I would like to apologize. I actually will not be able to be attending this council meeting because I do teach music classes on Monday nights, but I will be praying that you guys have a wonderful meeting. Everyone, could you please bow your heads? Let's go to our Father. Dear Lord Jesus, as we begin our prayer, Lord, we first pray, God, in thanks for all that you've done and all that you are. You give us good days, you give us good lives, and you give us everything in our lives, Lord, to be thankful for, every small blessing and big. So we glorify the King of Kings above all. Now we pray for the need. Lord, in this room, in this city, and around our nation and around our world, we pray, Lord, for every family. We pray, Lord, for decisions that are made. We pray, Lord, for your guidance, your protection, Lord, your wisdom. And we thank you, Jesus, for this good counsel. Lord, for our mayor. We pray, Lord, for their families, Lord, and their decisions and all they do, Father. In your understanding and only by your will can we do the impossible. We love you, dear Lord Jesus, and we, in your name, we say amen.
Amen.
God bless you all. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Guerra.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Here.
Mayor Robertson.
Here. Potential conflicts of interest. Any council member has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Okay. Agenda changes or deletions to better accommodate members of the public or inconvenience in the order of presentation. Items on the agenda may not be presented or acted upon in the order listed. Additions to agenda may be added only pursuant to California Government Code Section 54954.2b. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Members of the public are asked to direct their comments to the city council to minimize legal liability.
Teresa Salas, 1701 Dinuba Avenue. 2 questions. What is the status of the signal on McCall and Dinuba Avenue? And then the other thing is McCall and Barbara Street. There's a signal there. And it when you're going north and south, it's great. If you're on McCall, it gives you a green arrow to turn and go straight and it's always green. But if you're going east and west on Barbara Avenue, it's very hard to get across McCall Avenue. And if it's during the school day, forget it. If you're trying to make a left turn to get onto McCall, there's no arrow there. And people are going straight to get to the school and leave. And it's just, you could sit there for a couple of signals before you finally get to make a left turn to get onto McCall Avenue. And I have mentioned it before, there seems to be enough room there width-wise that maybe we could get a turn lane there and a arrow put up so that people can, I mean, because it just seemed like it was really easy to put that green arrow up on Thompson and Dinuba. So if we could do something like that on McCall and Barbara, it would be amazing. Thank you.
City Manager, did you want to address that now? Or did you want to address it in a future council meeting?
Well, if the council so desires, we have our city engineer who can address the status of the McCall and Dinuba, but we can place it on a future agenda as well, whatever the council pleases.
I'm good with now. Pretty good with now?
Mr. Horn, if you would please, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, I have been working with Gateway Engineering, who has the contract to do the design for the McCall and Dinuba signal. So getting myself up to speed, I've met with them multiple times. They've given me a schedule of the project. Currently, they're working on finalizing the location of the proposed signal poles, the mast arms, and how that interacts with the properties at each corner. So we reviewed their proposed locations. We believe they have a good proposal of where those mast arms will go. And so they are proceeding now with completing the construction documents. The first step right now, what they're working on is any right of way that has to be acquired from the property owners on specifically the south corners that are constructed and has a residential occupant. On the north corners, those are future development. So those right of ways have either already been dedicated or will be dedicated as well. So they're going through the right of way process. They're going through an environmental review process with Caltrans for that right of way that has to be acquired or dedicated. And then they'll continue on with the construction. And so that construction process, they'll be working with me as I review their plans and their schedule. My update for now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I have a question in regards to that. I know that we've probably been going around about 2.5 years in regards to this project. Any sense of getting a construction schedule from them and try to stick to it?
Sure, that's what we've asked them for. The schedule that they've given me includes their right of way, the design, and the Caltrans interaction because of where the funding is coming from. The current schedule that they have has some approvals or the final design in the August-September timeline. I'm working with them to verify that because of the environmental review that they have to go through. But I have met with them multiple times, trying to make sure that they have everything from our office that they need, the reviews from our office. I'm doing those as timely as possible so that we don't extend we're not holding them up at all. And so that's been my purpose currently.
Are we going to talk about McCall and Barbara? Or are we just going to address the other one? Or is that going into Brown Act issues?
Yeah, I think if we want to pursue something on that avenue, we should put it on the agenda.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anybody else with the oral communications at this time? Come on up.
1701 Dinuba, Jim Avalos. It was brought to my attention, one of the residents in our community, that an issue on the trash. It was a concern that I went by and looked at the individual's property, and the waste management did not pick it up. And I asked what happened. He says that waste management will not pick up the trash if the lid is that much open. And I told myself, that's unheard of. So if you guys can take a look at it with the what the criteria is that, I mean, people put trash and I mean, sometimes their lid's barely open and if they're not gonna pick it up, we have to kind of look at what's going on here in our community, you know, because we don't want, if they don't pick it up, we're gonna have some problems with flies and mosquitoes and, you know, visitation, you know, health wise. So I would kind of take a look at it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else with a comment at this time? Anybody on the phone or online? Okay, with that, we will move on to our first special presentation, which is presentation by California Water. Well, Stuart.
Good evening, Mayor, Selma City Council members. Good to see you this evening. Cal Water, we have a new project coming up here pretty soon. Just wanted to share with you the details since part of the project is going down Tucker Street right here next to City Hall. So this is what we call our main replacement program, our MRP. So the project that we have scheduled for this year takes place in two different locations, one here on Tucker and also over in the alley in between High and Grant Street. Thank you. Okay, so what is MRP? So Cal Water implemented this program back in 2014. The goal is to replace infrastructure that's old and failing. We use a matrix to determine what mains need to be replaced. Some of the criteria that goes into this matrix is age of pipe, the amount of leaks that we have in certain areas, critical areas. This could be hospitals, doctor offices, and also different types of pipe. There are certain types of pipe that corrode on the inside, and it really restricts the flow. So we like to replace a lot of that old type of pipe, steel, cast iron. Selma has just under 475,000 feet of main throughout the city. That's about 90 miles of pipe. And so the replacement rate that has been set forth for Selma is 0.5% per year. So we like to try to replace just under 2,400 feet of main every year.
Stuart, will you be emailing the council this presentation?
I can if you'd like, sure.
Great.
Okay. So this year's project, so there's two different sections, like I mentioned, Tucker Street that runs from 2nd all the way down to Center, and also the alley in between High Street, that's from North Street to 1st Street. This is just over 2,100 feet of new 8-inch water main going in, a total of 47 new services, 7 new hydrants, and 1 new fire service. Okay, so the Tucker Street section. You can see on the map the section located, or highlighted in yellow. This is from 2nd to 3rd Street. This portion of Main we're going to be doing at night. I had a meeting back in November with the deputy city manager, also the fire chief and police chief, and they asked if we could do that work at night, which makes total sense. We don't want to be disrupting the normal flow of activity during the day. So that portion will be done at night. The blue section from 3rd Street to Center, that'll be done during the day. The entire section of Tucker is 1,600 feet of new 8-inch main, 5 new hydrants, and 27 new services. As far as the new hydrants, we are actually adding a new hydrant in between 2nd and 3rd. There is no hydrant currently, so we'll be adding that one. Okay, so the alley between High Street and Grant Street, like I said, it goes from north to 1st. We'll also be doing this at night. That was also a request of the police chief and fire chief, just, with delivery trucks during the day and other activity. This is the alley behind the post office, behind the Baptist church. So yeah, we'll be doing that at night. This is 465 feet of new main, 2 new hydrants. Again, this is another section where we're adding a hydrant where we currently don't have one. And I'll be meeting the fire department over there to go over the exact location, wherever they want it, that's where we'll put it, so. This also includes 20 new services and 1 fire service. So just to go over the work schedule a little bit, we're gonna be starting over in the alley section first. So we're gonna begin potholing. Actually, I put these dates together on Friday. As of information I found it this morning, this could be delayed a week or 2, but I can always provide the city with the new dates. But this is tentative right now, what we have scheduled. Potholing, this is where we go out and wherever the other utilities have marked their facilities, we just want to verify that their markings are correct. And also we want to know the depths of where they are. That way we don't hit anything before we start digging. So we'll install the main starting May 3rd. After that, the services and the hydrants go in. Then we load the system, pressure test, take samples. When everything comes back good, that's when we'll tie in the new section to the existing section. And we're looking to do that toward the end of May. After the tie-in, we'll do the reconnects, which is where we switch the businesses and the residents over from their old service to their new service. And then the other tie-in on the other end of that project on North Street we'll do at the beginning of June. Okay, so for Tucker Street, we've got the night work on the left. We'll be potholing in the middle of May. Installing main toward the end of May. You can see the services and hydrants going in at the end of May. The tie-in at 2nd and 3rd will actually happen toward the end of July. And then the day work, potholing, the jack and bore. So this is a pretty big process. There is a canal down there between 4th and Center. And so we actually need to dig 2 very huge pits on either side of the canal to bore in our line a minimum of 2 feet below where the canal is. One issue I find with this is this time of year with all the water that we've got flowing everywhere. If there's water in the canal, CID is not going to let us do this work. So we might have to delay this until I'm not sure when, because water is going to be, we anticipate water flowing for months. So we'll see how that goes. But we can do the rest of the work. We'll put in the main, the services, the hydrants, again, load the system, pressure test, back T samples, do tie-ins, reconnects, all that good stuff. Then, of course, when all of that is done, we'll finish up with concrete restoration and paving. Right now, we're planning on doing that at the end of July into the first week of August, if all goes well. And that's what I've got. So please never hesitate to reach out if you have questions. You can call me at the office or email me. That's what I have this evening. If y'all have any questions or comments.
Do you have any questions or comments for Stuart?
I have questions, but I think it's kind of for both. Because I know that at one point, SKF had mentioned that whenever we do groundwork that we don't let them know. And so I don't know whether any of the infrastructure or the sewer is needs to be replaced in this area. But I think that if you guys are already digging, that would be something that maybe they can, tap in as well. I'm not sure. Like I said, they had made a comment one time that we don't let them know when there's, this type of things that are happening. And so you're already digging. So if there's something there that needs to be replaced, then, a good idea to do that. I know it's mainly downtown, but downtown has old pipes. So.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, that's a good idea because especially in that alley where we're going, usually with mains that we have in alleys, we like to, bring new main out into the streets. But in this particular situation, we couldn't do that. But because our new main is going in close to the sewer, if they wanted, that'd be a good time for them to maybe get in and do the same type of work. So that's a good idea. Thank you. I'll reach out. I can reach out to them.
I think, Stuart, you've discussed this at our development review meetings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, and SKF is part of those meetings as well. I believe that they've heard this, but it wouldn't hurt to reach back out to SKF to confirm. Thank you.
I think a good email in writing to make sure, because my understanding was that they've been part of these conversations, but they are saying that they're not. So thank you.
The council member brings up a good point. We used to have a few years back meeting called Team Selma, where we would have all the utilities, a couple council members, not more than two, and stakeholders from the area get together and talk about future projects so that they would see what's actually coming up, and it really fostered communication. This was pre-COVID, and it never really got going again, but maybe in the future, it'd be good to have communication like that among the various stakeholders and utilities, just so everybody knows what everybody else is doing. And I think the city did that originally with the work on Barber Street that's coming up, the repaving. I think the city worked with, or was doing the paving, was working with SKF, and SKF is changing out some of their, I think, a sewer lid or something, modernizing it. So that's good communication, and it proves it can be done. Anybody else with any questions for Stuart at this time? Anyone from the public? Anyone on the phone or online? All right, thanks. If you could email us that presentation, that'd be awesome.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, and our next special presentation is Planning and Development Project Update.
Mike's not on.
Hello? Mayor, City Council, Trevor Stearns, Contract City Planner. We have prepared a.
Still can't hear you, Trevor.
Hear me okay? Do I have to speak louder? Sorry about that. Staff has prepared a presentation going over the various development projects that we have here in the city. It's been routine that planning in conjunction with the community development director, whoever in that effect would be in representative of that role, would do this in collaboration. So Jerome and I both have worked on this presentation. It was great for Jerome because he got an idea of where everything is at, especially coming on, just a month ago. So we were able to really discuss all these projects and get have him get a better understanding of where everything's at. That being said, apologies if I mess up. This remote's a little new to me, but here we go. Okay, there it goes. There. So the first project that we have is the McCall Apartments project. This project has been already approved through Planning Commission, and it was currently at the building permit and grading permit phase. Since then, there has been a change of ownership, so there had been some relearning on the private side in terms of what needs to be rectified to move the project forward. So we're working with the new owners as of recently, been in contact with them, and they're understanding what needs to be completed to move the project forward accordingly. So there are still some updates to certain plans that need to be done regarding grading, utility, and improvement plans. So once those are all taken care of, fees are paid, then we can go ahead and get moving on, breaking ground too. Also, I'd like to preface too, if there's any questions or anything like that, feel free to jump in at any time, or you can wait to the end to save your comments to whichever works best for you guys.
Trevor, just quickly, McCall and
Nelson Boulevard.
Nelson Boulevard.
Yeah, that's the southeast corner right
Okay.
there.
How many units are going to be there?
That is 40 units. Yeah, 42 bedroom apartments.
Are these conventional or are they affordable? Do you know?
I believe they're market rate.
Market.
You don't know if they're senior living?
To my knowledge, there has been no discussion about senior living. They were originally approved at just market rate housing. So if there were any revisions regarding the occupancy, then I think the city would have to take a look at any revisions regarding ADA accessibility, things like that. So up to this point, I'm not aware of those improvements being proposed
as a part of the original plan submittal. So we would have to work with the new owner on any of those revisions. Up next, we have the Amberwood Tract. This project was the first of many projects to be expected for the city of Selma over there on the east side. This project included upwards to 270 single-family residential units and is a part of a larger specific plan area. There is a big need for sewer out in this area, and so that's why we have not seen any more development regarding this project. So as soon as the city works with the developer to move things forward that way, then we can see more movement on that and future development in this area as well. I know Fernando has been working closely with a few stakeholders, and we've been working through some of those sewer constraint issues. I don't know, Fernando, if you have anything you want to add to that. Oh, okay. So yeah, that property has been annexed. Right now, we would be waiting on just final map approval and also the submittal of improvement plans, such as, grading, utilities, things like that.
How many units are in this particular phase?
Yeah,
270?
it's above 270. I believe 270 is the actual amount. But if there's any need for additional information, I can always follow up with you guys. So I have all that information with me, so I can just add that to my list here. Along here. Oops. The McCall Estates tract. This is in the southern portion of the city, just north of the McCall and Mountain View intersection. It's currently outside of the city limits and outside of the sphere of influence of the city. So we're working right now with LAFCO to determining an appropriate boundary revision for the sphere because the city does not want to keep going back to LAFCO on a project by project basis regarding amendments to the sphere because it is an intensive process that requires a lot of staff time in order to prepare the municipal services review and a lot of the materials proving the need for the sphere of influence expansion. So we're working with multiple projects and multiple property owners in this area to propose a more comprehensive look at this southern portion to allow for the city for future growth, all with the understanding with LAFCO that the city is going to be taking a more broader look at the overall city during our general plan update for future expansion. Because right now the city is pretty well developed in terms of infill. Recently, staff did a vacant land analysis of the interior of the city, and we are close to being capped out in terms of how much space we have available for development, vacant land, things like that. So we will be looking forward to expanding that sphere to allow for future annexations.
Would that call for a change to the general plan?
As I mentioned, the general plan update, I think we're about due for one, and we've been discussing that internally and here at council. Just an idea. We are going through the zoning ordinance update, and then we'll be tackling that general plan update. Hopefully before the end of this year, just get that ball rolling.
That's where that sphere of influence would come in, that change there?
Yeah, it'll be very beneficial for the city to take on that approach as well during that whole process, just because, when you're taking a look at the comprehensive view of the city as the general plan states, you want to take a look at that sphere of influence as well as another guiding boundary, so to speak, of how the city is going to grow in the future. So we want to take that new, 20, 30-year look when we have our sphere, and we can kind of corral that all into one comprehensive package.
Trevor, I just have a quick question. I'm
Yes.
more of a visual person. Okay, you're saying that McCall and Mountain View
Mhm.
on the south side, right? So that would be on the 43, it'd be on,
It'd be
East
east of
side,
the
right?
43, yes.
okay, east side of 43.
Okay, Trevor, I have a question. I have two questions. First of all, in regards to the analysis that you guys did, I imagine you guys, we should stored that and kept that together so we can use that for the future.
And regarding,
The analysis that you've done on the property that we've used up and the amount that we have vacant for.
oh, yeah, yeah. So that was done as a part of the initial discussions with LAFCO, because those are the questions that we would anticipate when broaching this subject to LAFCO is they always want to know, okay, you want to increase your sphere. Why do you want to increase your sphere? And so we have to have that data to back up our assertions of we want to expand X amount because we are already at X percentage of vacant or developed land. So we need that extra space for our city to grow.
Next question probably is not with you, Trevor, probably with the city manager. In regards to the updated general plan, I thought we were actually, I think we were working on it or doing something with it, but but since we are talking in regards to in 2 days, we'll be talking about our budget, upcoming budget. It'd probably be best that we start thinking about maybe budgeting some money to set for an earmark of the next 2 years, having an actual general updated plan, because this, when you start talking about updating a general plan, it's not just a couple $100,000. We're talking massive, and the size of city we have, it's going to be a lot. So I would be more apt to budgeting this item and talking about it in our budget session so we can add some money to the budget and having a goal.
Yeah, and just to address your comment, Councilman Trujillo, Deputy City Manager, and I had this discussion this morning about the funds that are currently available for the general plan. So we currently have in the long range planning fund about $430,000 that's collected through building permit and development impact fees to fund the general plan update. As a rough estimate, we're probably looking at an expenditure over the next 3 years for the general plan of about $800,000. So we're about halfway funded, but I think 400,000 would get us through this first fiscal year, and then we can split the rest of the cost over the next couple of fiscal years. So that is a project that's going to come to the council for consideration during the budget process.
Just to clarify, there's 70, it looks like there's 78 lots on this track.
Yes, that's correct.
And so these are single family homes.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect.
Next, we have the Raventrack. This tract here, it's about 300 single-family residential units split into 3 separate phases. Currently, we have a complete application with the developer and applicant. And right now, they are working with CID, Consolidated Irrigation District, on some potential revisions to their map due to the northern portion of phase 3 impacting a facility that CID maintains and operates. Actually, it's an easement for the conveyance of wastewaters from one of the nearby canals into the ponding area that you see kind of between phase 1 and phase 3 right there. So there is that historical easement that they want to maintain, and being a good partner between the city, the developer, and CID, we want to make sure that everybody comes away from this relatively happy. I know nobody's going to have their exact cherry on top, so to speak, but we want to make sure that everybody has that equal understanding and to ensure that CID's interests are protected, as well as the impacts to the project will allow for the project to develop in the future. So
Trevor, just a quick question again on phase 1. Give me the cross streets on that, please.
yes, so phase 1 is Dinuba and Shaft. So that's the northeast corner of Dinuba and Shaft.
Phase 2?
Phase 2 and phase 3 are contiguous. They're going to be on Thompson Avenue, just north of Dinuba Avenue.
In Dinuba, right?
Yeah, that rough area. Yeah, they're both very close to each other.
And this is not city limits. This is,
It is within the city limits,
Okay.
yeah, so
so there's no annexation to do.
yes, yeah, there's no annexation component. Up next, we have the Casa de Via Apartments. This project is currently in the review under the California Environmental Quality Act. We're working with the applicant in order to push that project along. This project is a multifamily project, residential project that has been had a parcel map to split the overall property that you see on the right-hand side there into two separate properties, one for a future commercial component and the existing or the proposed residential component that's proposed as a part of this application here. What we're anticipating is about 44 multifamily units within this roughly 2-acre parcel. And what they want to achieve is a market rate housing option, more apartment complex units for the people of the city of Selma to give a greater variety of housing opportunities here. Right now, like I said, it's under the CEQA review process. And so that in and of itself, a lot of these projects are all subject to CEQA. And so we're working closely with each of the applicants and developers on the review of that process.
What's the cross streets on this one?
This one is Nebraska and Thompson. That's the southwest corner.
Oh, Thompson.
Up next, we have the Highland and Nebraska project. This one is on the northeast corner of Highland and Nebraska, proposing similar to the previous project, just on a slightly larger scale, is a commercial component and a multifamily residential component. We're anticipating 144 multifamily units as a part of this project. And the main entrance or the main access point is going to be off of Nebraska Avenue with an emergency access off of Fig Avenue to the north. The project does front or is contiguous with Caltrans right of way to the west. However, the applicant and the developer decided to adjust that. Originally the proposal was to exit and enter off of Highway 43, but the adjustment made it to allow for Nebraska to be the sole provider of access for the project. So right now we are working through the CEQA process with the applicant. We are near completion. Last we spoke with the property owner and developer. So we're looking forward to receiving that analysis, and it shouldn't be too long before you guys would be seeing this here before you for consideration at the council level. So we're highly anticipating that project, as with all of these projects, but this one I think is closer to kind of reaching that goal of being able to get to a public hearing. And also, the applicant is duly working towards acquiring at-risk approval for plan check to get that ball rolling as well, just to make sure that no time is lost during that process while we're still going through this planning stage process. So he's diligently working forward on that end as well. So he wants to kind of hit it at both fronts just so there's no time lost or delay.
So will this project take advantage of that upgrade to the Clarkson lift station, the sewer lift station?
It will, yes. Yeah.
There's no annexation issues on this, correct?
This one doesn't have an annexation, no. Next up, we have the JNC Truck Parking Project. Recently, this one just received approval through planning. It received conditions of approval and a final action letter issued for the project. We're working with the applicant and their engineer on the submittal for grading permits. Right now, the project is only proposing to pave their site to allow for truck parking. This project among other projects, has been brought to the city in an effort to kind of clean up the industrial park area. We have noticed some operations happening in the industrial park area where we want to make sure that, you know, we're meeting all of the city's municipal code requirements and development standards, things like that, for all businesses within the industrial park. So we've been working closely with all the business owners and property owners within that area. And so this is kind of the fruits of those labors as you see this project.
All those fences in the industrial park, not all of them were permitted potentially. Does the city go back and look for those, or when the property owners do an upgrade, is that when that's addressed?
For fencing specifically, we've had a few instances where code enforcement has notified staff that fences have gone up, and we've reviewed our records and it indicates that no fence permit has been approved. And we've duly noticed the property owners and it requested that they remove the fence. In other instances, we've received requests from property owners to put fences up, and the city is taking the position of just asking a little bit more, inquiring about what they want to do on the property prior to issuing the fence permit. Because usually what we've seen happen in the past is we see a fence go up and then we see some trucks parking back there, and then we see some dirt moving, and then we see an operation kind of starting that way. So it kind of is a stepping stone
Back
effect.
into it.
Yeah, yeah. So in an effort to,
Engineer.
kind of avoid those instances kind of occurring, we just kind of want to head it off at the beginning stages. And so we can help the property owners in that way too, with directing them into the appropriate procedure, such as like a site plan review. Because sometimes property owners or new tenants of spaces, they don't know exactly what they need to do. They don't know, they're not, they don't have the experience dealing with cities and things like that to get their businesses permitted in that way. So when we get those requests, we kind of guide them through the process of, okay, you want to do this? Well, we have to go X, Y, and Z. And this is the, this is the process that you have to do to acquire that business license or that building permit, things like
That's
that.
so true. And I think that's why we're up here too, for citizens to be able to come to us as citizen representatives if they have a question about what they need to do, and act as their go-betweens on the city, because a lot of people just don't know. They don't know how to get permits. They don't know the process. And it's been my honor to be able to work with our citizens to direct them, put them in the right direction. Because a lot of them, they don't know. They just don't know. They're not trying to break the law, but they don't know they have to get permits before they put the fence up, right? So it's good to get that education out there and let people know that we're on their side. We're just trying to help them do it the right way.
Trevor, I have a quick question. This is on Nebraska,
Oh,
right?
yes, sorry. Yes, southwest corner of Nebraska Avenue and Pacific Way. Next, we have the 1630 Second Street gas station. This project was proposed to include a gas station and convenience store on the southern corner of Second and Young Street. Just there next to the northbound off-ramp of State Route 99. This property also has been subject to some discussions about the abatement of the sign structure there. However, separate from that process, this process was to actually permit the development and also to allow for the overall development of the parcel. So they're proposing that gas station and convenience store there. Right now, we've received application materials submitted as a part of that. However, there had been some variations of relative incompleteness of the application. And so we're working with the applicant to rectify those issues. In addition, obviously SEQ was a big component for this too. When we're thinking of gas stations being located near residential homes, we always, need to take into concern the air quality impacts, things like that. So we're working with the applicant on providing all of that technical expertise and technical studies as a part of the Environmental Quality Act and that review. So the city's working with the applicant on meeting those threshold and guidelines. And so we're currently awaiting for that response back from the applicant regarding those submittals. Up next, we have the Rose Avenue tract. This project is located on Rose Avenue, just east of the Country Club development. The nearest cross street, oh geez, I'm kind of blanking on this one. But it's just outside of, or it's within the city limits. It doesn't require an annexation. But it's near the city limits in the county area where you can kind of see those two land uses type of blending together.
Is it on the other side of Country Rose Estates?
Yeah, it's just east of that. So it essentially would be a
hospital.
continuation of it. Yeah. Yeah. And north of the hospital, as Mayor Robinson had mentioned. This is a single family residential subdivision proposing large lots, 8 to 12,000 square feet for those lots. And the estimation there would be 42 single family units and some park space located on the southeastern side of the project site. This project, like many others as mentioned, it requires the CEQA process. So as a part of the education for the developers and the applicants, we have been working closely with a lot of these players, these developers, to meet those requirements in order for the city to move the project along. So currently that is underway, and we're hopefully anticipating that to go forward because it can be expedited through that process. So. Next up, we have Thompson Estates. This project is proposed 144 single-family units. This project is located on the south of Blaine Avenue between Mitchell and Thompson Avenue. This project is requiring an annexation where you kind of see Blaine Avenue right there. That is the city limits in that area. So we will be requiring an annexation for this project as a whole. But we're working through with the applicant. They have submitted all of the materials that we need for the project. So we've worked on review of that. In addition, CEQA is a component that's outstanding for the project. So they're already preparing that with their own consultant, which is great. And so we should be expecting a submittal anytime soon here from the developer there. This project has also been, it's been attached to the future park dedication that the city has been discussing, the 10-acre park. And so that has been kind of intertwined with this project. However, at this point, both of those kind of projects are separated, and I think they're going to go on their separate paths, just in, in the event that one moves quicker than the other.
How many units are here?
207, or I'm sorry,
144.
44,
Thank you. And these are, you said single family.
single family, yes. Next, we have the Bubble Wash convenience store / car wash project. This project is located on the northwest corner of Floral Avenue and Whitson Street. On the corner right there, great visibility. They want to rehab their existing car wash and also add a convenience store component, around a 900 square foot convenience store, just with, the typical convenience store inventory there. So we're working with the applicant on that. They've submitted all of the application materials. The city will be reviewing and conditioning the project accordingly and issuing that final action letter here probably within the next month or so, we anticipate.
Are there any development or impact fees associated with this renovation?
Yes, essentially every project here on this development, project list would be subject to development impact fees. Obviously some to a lesser severity than others because it all depends on the ESFRs, things like that, which every project would be calculated, individually. So, at the time of, building permit, acquisition. So at that time, then that's when we will figure out what development impact fees will be due for the project. And at that time, they would pay it to acquire their building permit.
Trevor, did you say there's already a gas station there?
There is an existing gas station there. Yeah, that's correct.
That 76 Chevron or?
Geez, Chevron,
Chevron?
I should know. I drive there almost past that every day to get to Chipotle.
Your lunch spot.
Okay. That's where I go. Yeah. Okay.
Up next here, we have the Raj Apartment Project. One of the more recent projects that you guys have probably seen. This project had, received planning approval through council just recently, and so they are working to submitting for grading and building permits. We're just working with them through that process, reviewing intake review of the materials and getting them on their way so we can start that review. Oh, sorry. This is on southeast corner of Nebraska and Mitchell.
Okay.
They, what type of,
This is, it's a 6 units. It's 3 duplexes.
okay.
Vote on it.
Right, home stretch here. We got the Candlewood Suite project. This is a proposed hotel located on just south of Floral Avenue, almost directly south from the Walmart building. This is a smaller 2-acre piece of the overall 40 acres that you kind of see noted there by the aerial. This hotel is proposing 7 rooms, approximately 4 stories. And this is requiring an annexation component. We're working with the applicant to get a complete application submitted to the city regarding the submittal of the appropriate annexation materials as a part of that. So we're working closely with them. Obviously, CEQA is going to be a big component here too, and the inevitable review of the traffic impacts of this area. So we're going to be working with them to accurately depict and analyze the traffic impacts for this project to the neighboring road system.
Are we at a stage where we can know what type of hotel or not yet?
In terms of the brand, I'm not sure.
Candlewood is the brand.
Is it the
Candlewood?
brand? Okay.
Yeah, and it's usually like an extended stay type of
Okay.
hotel. Mhm.
Up next, kind of the remaining 38 acres, as I mentioned, with the smaller 2-acre parcel. These are separate projects, but we have the Casitas Development project here, which is in the same rough location, just south of Floral, near the 99 interchange there. This is a large-scale mixed-use project offering a variety of commercial components, but then also a variety of housing options too. It's going to be all high-density housing. We're going to have a mixture of market rate, senior living, and affordable housing. The commercial components are going to be adjacent to Floral Avenue, right there on the entrance, and as you can see, kind of in the site plan there, B1, B2, B, and C are all going to be the high-density residential developments there. In E being a large circular park acting as a traffic circle. Another one of the amenities that the project proponent wanted to throw in there just to to serve the future residents of this area, but then also obviously to meet their requirements as a part of the municipal code too. Also, as a part of this proposal as well, Stillman Avenue is going to be developed to the extent of the property as well to also benefit the project itself in terms of circulation.
If I could just add, Stillman Street is a pretty significant part of this project because it will alleviate some of the traffic impacts on Floral. It's hard to tell from this site plan, but you'll be able to drive through the development, through the roundabout and park south towards Stillman if you're trying to get, to the south, Highway 43 area, and vice versa. You'll be able to get up to the Walmart because the traffic signal will align with the existing location of the traffic signal at Floral and Floral Avenue, right across from the Walmart right now. So as we continue to develop westward, Stillman Street will continue to be extended towards DeWolf.
How many units? How many rental units, apartment units?
We're estimating, I believe, 600.
600?
Yeah, between all three types of housing,
Oh, and that's senior housing.
affordable and market rate.
Now, this is the property that's across the street from Walmart currently, that
That's correct,
empty
yeah.
lot, right?
Yes, that's correct.
You're saying it's still in Sequa?
Right, yeah, right now we're, that is one of the larger components that needs to be completed as, in conjunction with all of the technical studies, including a traffic impact analysis. So we're going through that process with them. They've submitted all of the application materials and we've done our cursory review of that just for completeness wise. However, once we get the technical studies and the CEQA document, then we'd be able to dive deeper in terms of what improvements are being proposed and any of future conditions that need to be addressed as a part of those technical studies and the city's review are going to be incorporated during that process. Right, up next is the medical clinic project. This project was recently, it received approval through Planning Commission for the site plan and variance for this project. This project is proposing a roughly 15,000 square foot medical facility located on just, I guess, north of Whitson, West Whitson, between 2nd and 3rd Street. There's the existing family healthcare network building and the continuation of the undeveloped parcel. They're continuing that development because they own all of those properties, and so they want to expand their facility regarding the existing facility that's there. So they're doing a complete demo and remodel of the medical clinic. So we're going to be seeing an expansion of those services there.
What's the cross streets, Trevor?
Whitson, north of Whitson Avenue between 2nd and 3rd Street.
The Family Health Network? Or
Yeah, the family, yeah, I believe the Family
Clinica,
Healthcare Network.
Clinica, isn't it something? Okay.
Yeah, they do a beautiful job. I went to the one in Hanford and it's a beautiful
They do.
facility.
Mm.
Right, up next, we have the Outsource Industrial Project. This is another project within the industrial complex or industrial area of the city of Selma. Just east of Golden State Boulevard. The cross streets there are going to be Birch Court and Pacific Way, just north of Saginaw Avenue towards the south of that industrial park area. This project is proposing a redevelopment of the site. They're proposing a large warehouse building retrofitted with an office and also the usage of 4 additional parcels there as you can see kind of by the aerial, for the storage of utility equipment and trucks and things like that. They're a huge provider of utility and emergency services for PG&E. And so we've seen those services being used, especially within this most recent rain and windstorms that we've had within the last maybe 7 or 6 months. So they've been in and out of their site quite a bit. And so they're a valued partner in that regard. And they'll be working towards they received their planning approval already, and so they'll be working towards their building and grading permits right now. Next, we have the Selma Grove project. The Selma Grove project is located north of Floral Avenue, just west of the Walmart site. That'll be, I guess, west of Walmart, east of DeWolf Avenue. So it requires an annexation. It's on the city, it's just outside of the city limits. What is being proposed is a large scale commercial project. We have a variety of commercial uses being proposed, such as a cinema, a variety of major anchor stores that we would see, large department stores, a marketplace, and some other ancillary commercial components, smaller commercial tenants being proposed there. So this is a large scale commercial project. It received a recommendation for approval through Planning Commission with additional conditions of approval. We're working with the developer and Caltrans as it relates to the estimated or the improvements for or the traffic improvements for the Floral 99 and Highland Avenue area, as this project has been analyzed under CEQA, and a technical study has been prepared by a traffic engineer to outline what improvements need to be done. And so we're working with Caltrans and making sure that they're all satisfied with those components as well. The next step for that project is to come to City Council for consideration with Planning Commission's recommendation and any revisions that staff would have as a part of those continued discussions with Caltrans and the developer. And lastly, we have the FCRTA maintenance facility. This is well into the building and grading phase in terms of plan review and issuance of comments, things like that. So we're anticipating a groundbreaking fairly soon here, I believe, as mentioned in one of the previous council meetings. So
Friday.
really looking forward to that.
Friday. Yeah.
Oh, it's Friday.
Friday.
Oh.
It's
Very
coming.
soon. So we're working through the procedures with them just to get to obtain their building permits and make sure that they have everything that they need, and they're meeting all of the city's requirements and conditions of approval as a part of the procedures that we've completed with them. So I think that kind of wraps up everything. That was the fast version. So, if you have any other further questions or concerns about any projects, absolutely reach out to myself, Jerome. We talk on a daily basis about all these projects, and so we'll be able to, between the both of us, we'll be able to answer any questions you guys have.
I have a question going back to the Raventrack. I don't think I caught how many units are in phases.
I believe 301 between all 3 phases. If we're to take a look between each phase, I don't have the number off the top of my head.
Print is super small, but and so you said this is off of Thompson and Dinuba.
Yeah, Thompson and Dinuba, yeah.
Council have any other questions for Trevor? Do we have any questions from the folks here tonight? Do we have anybody online or on the phone? Okay. This is a presentation, so we'll move on from here. Thanks a lot, Trevor. We appreciate your work.
Absolutely.
And we'll move on to our consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote for purposes of discussion. Any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar, made part of the regular agenda. The council can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Do council members have any items they'd like removed tonight?
Mayor, I'd like to remove item 9.
Is there a motion to approve items 1 through 8?
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
Okay, call the roll, please.
I'll second it.
First Trujillo, second Guerra.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, item 9.
Just have a couple here on page 85. Check number 81485, Department of Healthcare, and it says Fire Department, GMT, QAF, 2022, fourth quarter. I know I probably ask this all the time, but this is the state sends it to the federal, right? For federal to pay out on those Medi-Cal bills. Is that correct?
This program is a little bit different.
Okay.
This program involves an add-on to certain Medi-Cal related patients that we bill. Each one of those comes with an add-on.
Okay.
So we receive that funding in advance as an add-on. And then on a quarterly basis, based upon how many of those calls we ran and how much that add-on was, this is the payment that you see here.
Okay.
Now, this project is ending as of this last payment. It ended at the end of this past year
Mhm.
and will be replaced with a new GEMT
Okay.
program.
So that is still a reimbursement type program. Is that correct?
It is, they all kind of run that same way. The only aspect of it is it stays typically within the state.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then check number 81486, Raul Escamilla. And it says PW, probably Public Works repairs to city sidewalks, Second and East Front Street repairs, curbs, gutters in Second Street or West Front Street in the amount of 10,250. Now, is this the sidewalk that was put in front of Parmender's Trophy Shop building?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so was that the city's responsibility or is it the owner's responsibility?
It's split between the parties. For the most part, it's the owner's responsibility. And so we have an agreement with, and the municipal code spells out how much the city would actually contribute to that. I can't remember if it's 3,000 or 5,000, but for the most part, it's the owner's responsibility.
For the most part,
Yeah.
on right of ways for
On-
public
on
right of ways
Sidewalks.
or sidewalks, right?
Mhm.
Just a quick question, and only because I got so many complaints in regards to
Mhm.
why the owner wouldn't put in the sidewalk and the city but why did it take so long?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think a previous staff member in the Public Works Department had this existing sidewalk removed. And the bidding process for a contractor hadn't been initiated prior to that. So then when we took over under new staff, we had to go through that entire process. And part of the problem was that, you know, in downtown and throughout the city, in the general downtown area, the greater downtown area, we have brick in the sidewalk, which is very difficult these days to get a mason to come out and do it and do a small job like that for a reasonable cost. And so it took us quite a while to find a good mason that is licensed and bonded that could do a prevailing wage job for that small of a section. And so that's why it took so long, to be honest. And then we had some additional issues with regard to drainage in the properties adjacent to the trophy shop. And so those were addressed. But for the most part, it came down to the contractor, and then the weather delays certainly affected that as well.
Only because the concern is when we have developers that come into our city and they're coming into, that's the first thing they're gonna look at when you come into Second
Sure.
Street. So it's an eyesore. It is.
Mhm.
And if anything, in the future, I mean, if we can get those kind of things resolved, I know the person that did the Veterans Plaza, he does. So maybe we could keep that individual.
Yeah, so we've been talking internally with staff about, with regard to the issue of the bricks in the sidewalk, just completely going away from that and just using stamped concrete. If you notice in the Veterans Plaza, there are in certain areas where we've had to replace the concrete and sidewalk. We've actually used stamped concrete that looks like brick because it's cheaper and it's easier to find contractors. So as we develop the downtown strategic plan, we're going to start developing guidelines as to when a sidewalk needs to get replaced, what's the design that we're going to use that doesn't require this level of masonry and that level of cost. So we're absolutely addressing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's see. I think that's it. That's it for me.
Yeah, just had a couple. I had an inquiry based on the recent staff trip to that Happy Valley. I'll just rattle off these costs because there was a question about the costs. Just let me know if they're related to that, if you would, City Manager. James Yule, Breaking the Chain Consulting, 81527, admin, 3-day team workshop, 11,037.40. Was that related to the?
Yes, that was the consultant who facilitated the workshop.
Got it. Thank you. And then 81531, next page, Western Camps Inc., admin, executive team, retreat, final payment, $3,565. Okay,
That was Winter Valley, correct.
thank you. And then page 88, 181, it says EB San Joaquin conference registration. That was for $660. Is that the same thing?
No, that's a different conference, and actually that's been refunded because none of the staff were able to attend.
Okay, thank you. And then page 94. We've got supplies, the 5 dysfunctions of a team book for $16.26, and supplies official extreme ownership workbook, $26.30. Were those related to the Happy Valley, or was it to the
The Wonder Valley,
conference?
yeah, those were the
Or
books. that
Wonder
the,
Valley? Is that where you
consultant
guys went?
used. Mhm.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions on the check register? Is there a motion to approve the item?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item one, number 10, this is regular business. Consider approval of second amended and restated tax sharing memorandum of understanding and MOU with the County of Fresno.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you know, our tax sharing MOU with the County of Fresno has expired as of February, and it was extended last year for a period of an additional 12 months. Just as a little bit of background, the previous MOU was originally for a term of 15 years, and with that agreement establishes, it meets certain government code requirements between partnerships between the county and municipal governments, but most significantly, it puts together a framework that facilitates annexations and how the property tax and sales taxes are split between the county and municipal agencies when there's development within the sphere of influence of the city and when annexations are required. It also sets forth the sales tax rate and the actual rate of the property tax split. So if we didn't have this agreement, what you would see is, and you saw in the planning department's presentation earlier, that there are quite a few projects that would require annexation or have required annexation in the past. Without this MOU, we would have to negotiate individual agreements, tax sharing agreements with the county, which could take years in some instances, depending on the size of the project. And so it would effectively stop growth within the city, any growth that requires expansion or annexation. So this is a really important agreement to have. We did discuss with the county certain concerns that the city has, particularly with regard to I think in the past that the council has suggested a sunset on some of these on the tax sharing agreement. Also, a greater share of the tax revenue and property tax revenue. Ultimately, the county has been pretty steadfast on the language that was proposed, mainly because every city, their preference is to maintain the same agreement and the same split with every city within Fresno County. As I mentioned in the staff report, the agreement does include a clause that if at some point another city is able to negotiate a more favorable split, then we would be able to ask the county for the same split and enter into negotiation for the amendment of our contract. But at the end of the day, this is something that is going to be beneficial for us to have with the county to facilitate annexations. And then, as I also mentioned in the staff report, the county as a very important partner to the growth of the city, agreed to, on an individual case-by-case basis, discuss the possibility of participating in EIFDs, for example. Of course, there's no commitments that have been made for any particular EIFD or anything like that, but that is something that's important to the city council, and that was conveyed to the county staff. And I will say that Bernard Jimenez, who is in the audience, he's the representative of the county, has been great to work with. And if Bernard, if you have anything to add, feel free to come up to the podium. But this is the proposed agreement that staff is recommending to the city council for approval.
Thank you. City Manager, does council have any questions for the city manager at this time? I know it's a real best between Fresno County and Fresno right now. Without a sales tax sharing, it's really hard for them to get any annexations done. So I think it's really important that the city move forward and have that sales tax sharing agreement. Question I have is, it looks like the city is getting 1% less of the tax sharing agreement. Is there any rationale behind that?
Yeah, and so it looks like historically the city of Selma has actually enjoyed a greater share than other cities. And so the 1% less is actually realigning us with all the other cities in the county. And it's going to happen over a period of 2 fiscal years. And then the remaining 13 fiscal years, it'll be 37% for the city.
Okay, so on the annexations that happen, the property taxes that result from that annexation, the annexed territory, this will be the split for those property taxes, at least for 15 years.
The split is actually into perpetuity. The agreement itself is for 15 years in terms of whatever annexations happen within those 15 years. That's what this split applies to. But the actual sharing of the revenue doesn't end after 15 years.
So that's forever.
Correct.
Got it. It's just the percentages may change after 15 years.
If it's renegotiated, correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the sales tax is 5% to the county if it's a commercial property. Generally, properties that are annexed from the county, do they become commercial properties or do they become mostly residential properties? Or is there a rule of thumb?
It just depends on what the land use designation is in the city's general plan. That's what the county usually permits. If there's anything different than that, then the county will defer to the city on that if it's adjacent to the city limits.
Mm-hmm. And the rationale behind the greater split is the county had the land before, they developed that, they serviced it for all these years, and so they should get some sort of recompense for that, or is there reasoning behind that?
Yeah, most of the annexations will actually be undeveloped land that have a planned project. And, you know, at the end of the day, the county would like to push development towards the cities. At the same time, that development creates a greater need for services that the county provides, like social services, you know, and other services that the cities can't provide on their own. So the rationale is as there's more development being pushed to the cities and the county gives us this property and the full property tax, then they should be compensated for that loss. And as well, most of this land is agricultural land. And so part of the county's mandate is to preserve ag land. When that's not possible and when it hinders growth in the cities, then there's that compensation element as well.
So maybe the people don't know that the city doesn't actually purchase the land from the county. It just annexes it. And so in a way of speaking, this might be a substitute for purchasing the land.
Well, no, not really a substitute. I think the projects themselves are owned privately. And so we just bring it into the city's service area where we provide the sewer, you know, water service and all that kind of stuff. There's really no analogy towards a purchase. It's really just we're bringing it under the umbrella of the city to provide services.
So the city ends up doing all these costs to service that area, and yet only gets a third of the property taxes.
Yeah,
from
well,
the area.
we get development impact fees, which all projects, even if they're not annexed, that's the purpose of the development impact fees, the building permit fees. And actually the county also, for any projects that are not annexed into the city but are developed adjacent to this sphere of influence, they also charge the city's impact fees, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, no, the cost of the services that are provided for developments that are annexed into the city are actually covered through the development of impact fee. So it's important for the city to have updated impact fees at all times so that we make sure we're covering our costs of those.
And
new
those impact
projects.
fees are one time. Is that right?
They're one time, correct? Mhm.
Got it. Property taxes are every year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
City Manager, I just have a quick question as well. For the properties that are already developed that are county, okay? And I know we talked about this where there's, you know, they don't have sidewalks and they don't have certain, and they can't come to the city and complain because that was the issue. What about for those folks? Because if the county is servicing them, why aren't they getting the service that is needed?
That's a good question. Bernard and I had discussed this, and part of it comes down to some of the residents may not want to be part of the city and may not want to be incorporated. It's a process to incorporate them, you know, but they also do want to have the sewer service and, you know, the water service and those kinds of things. So maybe Bernard, I don't know if you want to elaborate, but it is, there has to be agreement between the residents of the county islands to bring them into the city.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Bernard Jimenez, Fresno County. So there's some different options that are available to those residents who want those types of infrastructure improvements. Certainly, we can facilitate that, but there would have to be some type of formation of a special district. The county obviously doesn't have the revenue just to put in curbs, gutter, sidewalks, streetlights if they don't exist already, if there isn't some funding stream from them. So we can go out and get grants. But the long-term maintenance would have to be by the residents themselves. And that's kind of a model that even you look at the city of Fresno, city of Clovis, any type of development, they are requiring the formation of community facility districts to provide for that long-term maintenance. So it's not such a burden on the taxpayers in the cities. So those are some strategies that other cities are implementing to offset that long-term maintenance costs. But if residents are willing to essentially tax themselves to defer the cost and to pay for maintenance, the county is more than happy to provide that. Some areas, I will say, under SB 244, disadvantaged communities, I'm not sure whether or not the city has done that analysis to identify those communities within its sphere of influence. But if it has, and if there are any, it's actually the city's obligation to look at things like infrastructure improvements related to sewer, water, and fire protection. The county takes care of those communities outside of each of the city's spheres of influence.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You hit it on the nose. It is a city of Selma obligation to look at the residents along the sphere of influence, just like the street that we're talking about where Raven Development is at. Those homes are developed, they are approaching into our city, and, you know, we should be looking at what we could do for that. And, you know, I read some of the comments here in regards to collaboration between the county and the city. I think that's what we need to, actually, when we start looking at updating our general plan, we should probably start talking about what grants are out there. And I think communication with the residents is actually key. That's where we'll be able to get those residents to understand what they'll get out of, you know, coming to the city of Selma, you know, joining the city.
Right, and we've participated in those types of discussions with the other cities. You know, it's one thing if if these unincorporated residents are receiving sewer, water, there's kind of a disincentive for them to actually be annexed because they're getting essentially the same services as if they were in the city, but not being subject to the city's requirements and things of that nature. So it's a balance between giving them the services they desire, but also encouraging them to, in terms of unification of land uses and cities' growth control, to be in the city limits. They're in your sphere of influence. So I think the thought is that one day they will be in your city limits.
Any other questions? Yeah, maybe on your way home tonight, go by Fancher. Some of those roads are horrible. They're just horrible out there. They're county. And you know, I've had people come to me and say, God, what's the city doing about this? Why aren't you fixing it? Well, it's county. So that's good to know that they would potentially qualify as a disadvantaged community, and the city could apply for funding for that.
Yeah,
And should look for funding for that.
Sure, and I'm very familiar with city. I live in the city of Fowler, so I come here quite frequently. So I'm very familiar with that particular area of the north side of the city. And I will say that the city and the county have entered into partnerships, specifically along Dinuba Avenue in the past. We formed a joint powers agreement that gave the city the authority, because it was looking at some sewering solutions, to go out there and do some major infrastructure improvements. That hasn't happened yet, but do know that that's in place. And the thought was to allow property owners along there to assemble lands and to look at some bonding for infrastructure improvements.
So there's a CFD in place already.
There's a JPA that gives your city council the authority to go out there and look at bonding for sewer infrastructure improvements along Dinuba Avenue.
Really?
Okay. That's good to know.
That's the area we're talking about.
Yep.
Mhm.
Anybody from the public have any questions? All right, that will bring the matter back. This is an action item. Is there a motion to consider approval?
A motion to approve?
Is
I'll
there a
second
second?
it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item 11, consideration of a resolution approving reimbursement agreement for sewer improvements for the Amberwood specific plan zone of benefit.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you may recall, the city council has given direction to staff to pursue financing to fund sewer improvements, as we were just discussing, along both Dinuba Avenue between Golden State and really east of McCall all the way to Orange. And then the Amberwood specific plan area going from the Floral and Dockery area all the way down south to Saginaw and Golden State. So those two projects, or those two sewer mains, would benefit right off the bat two major projects that are currently in line for development. And one of those is the Amberwood Phase 1 tract, and which you saw in the presentation earlier from City Planner Stearns. We have been in lengthy discussions with the property owner, the Surimian family, and Mr. David Surimian, who's in the audience this evening, to hash out a deal because it was the council's wish that if the city is going to fund significant sewer improvements, then some of the developers that are primarily benefiting from those improvements should have a little bit of skin in the game. And both the Surimian family and the Raven family on Dinuba Avenue have been very, very good to work with and understanding of the city council's position to fund these improvements and to partner with the developers. The agreement that you have before you for consideration really establishes a solid time frame for not just the construction of the improvements once funding is received by the city, but also establishes commitments from the developer to pay their fair share of the cost of the sewer line on an annual basis, or as the property develops over those 6 years. And so what that ensures is that the city has at least some revenue stream to pay back the funding that we obtained to build that sewer line. For the Amberwood specific plan zone of benefit, specifically, we're looking at probably a cost of $5.5 to $6 million to build that trunk line. The phase one tract of 270 units that was approved by the council last year, or the year before, I should say, that would be responsible for just the fair share related to just those units. Anybody else that comes along and ties into that sewer trunk line, whether it's residential or commercial, they would be subject to the fees that are in the development impact fee schedule at the time that that project happens. And so this agreement really just carves out a little bit of a plan so that the Cerumean family can move forward with that development of the Amberwood phase one. And so in the process of that, we'll also be updating our development impact fee schedule. So this is a really exciting step in our process of getting Amberwood and the Dinuba area built out. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy. But the city attorney reviewed and was part of the drafting of this agreement. And again, thank you to the Cerumean family, Mr. David Cerumean, for his participation and good faith collaboration on this important agreement.
Well, this is music to my ears, because for years, I mean, at least 3 years, I've been asking, when are we going to break ground? We're shovel ready. Are we going to break ground? I think I kept saying that every quarter, but no, this is exciting. And like I've mentioned before, in the past 3 years, you know, we need to get back in the game. And I hear this from our citizens all the time. When are we going to start building these, you know, mid to high-end homes? We need more of these homes. We're losing people, you know, to Selma, to Kingsburg and Fowler. So we need to get back in. And I'm really, I'm just excited because we really need to get back in the game and start building homes. So I really appreciate that. My question is, I know we talked about obtaining the money. We have the money, right? We don't have the money.
You're talking about for the Amberwood trunk line specifically?
Yes.
Okay, no, that project has not been fully funded. The city has been working to obtain funding from iBank and other sources to fund this project. And so we're pretty close. I think as soon as these agreements are approved by council and executed, it'll be a pretty quick turnaround to get that funding.
Okay. Do you have a time frame?
Well, I can't give you anything for sure, but I think my goal is once both the Dinuba and the Amberwood agreements are executed, we're shooting for about 60 days to have the funding in hand.
Okay.
And we're working with our municipal advisor. That could change, but they've already reviewed our financials and it's pretty solid.
Okay. And then also the time frame. What's the time frame that it's going to take to put the sewer line in?
Good question. I think on Amberwood, it'll probably take a little bit less time than Dinuba, because Dinuba is it's basically all street existing roadway, whereas Amberwood, a lot of that stretch is just dirt. And so I'm working with the city engineer to plan out, I think the primary locations where we'd start is at 99, because at a Golden State, because we would have to bore under the railroad tracks. And so for both Dinuba and Amberwood, we probably have the money already to start boring under the railroad. to fully build out the trunk lines, we do not have that money, but we can start this fiscal year. Yeah, and then as far as the timeframe goes, I think you're probably looking at, I don't know, six months, city engineer, to build out each of those lines. Yep.
About 6 months.
After the bidding process is complete.
Okay, so we haven't went out for bidding yet.
No, not until we have the funds in hand.
Any other comments from the council? Oh, okay, let me make a comment, Mr. Avalos, and then you can come up. You know, Tom Peters said, if a window of opportunity presents itself, don't pull down the shade. And this is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for the city, as Council Member Garrett says, to get back in the game. But we have to figure out how to pay for the window at the council. So I have to ask some questions. Question I have to ask is, does this create a lien? Does this contract create a lien on the property? I saw the default provision, but you know, city council, it's been burned before in the past. Not saying that that'll happen here, but it could happen. And we would be financially irresponsible as a city council and the manager of the city finances, the ultimate manager, if we didn't ask about the contract provision. So does this contract actually create a lien on that property in the event that the city goes ahead and installs the sewer line and there is a problem with the payment, there's default or what have you? Does that land revert to the city?
The land would not revert to the city, but and the contract itself does not create a lien. What the city could do is if the other party were to default, the city could sue on the contract and then place that whatever it was award as a lien on the property. And then at that point, the city could potentially foreclose and collect the lien, or if the property is sold, they would collect the lien out of the escrow proceeds.
The contract says it does create a lien.
I see what you're saying, like, but the contract itself, just as a standalone document, does not create a lien. We would have to take it and enforce the contract to create that lien. If that makes sense.
Okay. And then in terms of the sewer improvement costs, which appears to be the numerator, and the number of units in the tract, which creates the actual cost for the homeowners or the per unit, the per ESFR. How was that number arrived at? The number of 3,533 ESFRs or equivalent single family residences or homes?
Yeah, good question. So based on the zoning and the general plan land uses in those zone of benefits, we calculated how many, what the minimum number of homes that would be built in those zones would be, and then what the maximum number of homes would be. So on the minimum range for the Amberwood zone of benefit, you'd look at 2,463 ESFRs, equivalent single family units. On the maximum range, based on the densities that are allowed by the city's general plan and zoning ordinance, you're looking at 4,602 units. So that 3,533 ESFRs is actually the median between those two numbers, because we don't know whether the minimum density or the maximum density is going to be built out. So we have to land somewhere in the middle. I mean, there could be zone changes, there could be general land use updates, general plan updates. And so our best guess is somewhere in the middle, right? So that's really where we arrived at that number.
Okay. And then, so the city must commence the construction of sewer improvements within 6 months of obtaining full funding for the project. What does that mean?
So as soon as we're approved for the funding from whatever source, then we would go out to bid. The plans are pretty close to being complete. That bid process could take, 3-4 months. And then based on the construction schedule of the awarded contractor, then we would begin construction.
The city will just go to one loan provider, or will the city shop around for the best?
We have been shopping around. Mhm.
And then as soon as that happens, per this agreement, the developer must commence construction of residential development. I guess would be this map that we're looking at of 270 units within 12 months.
Correct. Of obtaining full planning entitlement. So in the presentation, you saw that there's still some improvement plans that need to be submitted and all that kind of stuff. But within 12 months of obtaining that approval, yes.
That doesn't mean permits. That means like the final map.
Final map, civil improvement plans and development agreements. Yep.
Okay. And then they have 6 years to build
Yes.
out all the units that they're going to build out,
Correct.
or else they're going to have to pay. I'm just trying to understand
Sure.
this.
Yeah.
They have to pay the total amount to put in the sewer, which was at this point, it's 5,394,186.
No, not the total amount to build out the sewer. It's their fair share because the 270 units are not going to pay for the full sewer. So what they're paying for is the cost for each equivalent unit of those 270 units that they're building. So it would actually, based on that estimated amount of $5.4 million, they'd be looking anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000 across those 6 years. What the agreement provides is if they're not building at least a sixth of those 270 units every year, they still have to pay whatever they would have had to pay in reimbursement costs to the city every year of their fair share, not of the full line of $5.4 million. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It really depends on the number. I mean, it really comes down to that number that you looked at for the 2463 and 4602, which is actually the average.
The median.
The average 3533. So that's a pretty high numerator, right? I mean, that's pretty big number.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that zone of benefit, it's a pretty big number. So you have to spread it out to you don't know what's actually going to develop out there, right? So it's your best guess.
Yeah. Okay. And then the 6 years, how did the 6 years come about as the timeline?
That was what we agreed to after negotiating with the developer. It went from 10 years to 6 years because they actually want to accelerate that timeline and get these home builders building.
Mhm. So they will pay the difference each year in the event that they don't build.
Correct.
For that 1/6 of that number.
Yes.
And then that number is going to change, that 5,394,000 based
Absolutely.
on the actual bid.
Well, and then it's going to also be dependent because we're also charging the cost of interest to the city because we're carrying interest for this funding. And so that's going to be built into this cost, administrative fees, those kinds of things.
So just asking questions because this is a lot of money that this can obligate the city to, but we'll get a great return on it. And I'm 100% for it,
Mhm.
for this residential development. But again, we have to ask the questions because that's what we're here to do.
Absolutely.
What I'm here to do. Let's say the homes come in. There are other people who want to develop, I believe, on Dinuba, and I saw something in that agreement that says they can take advantage of this agreement too. What would their
Go ahead.
right? So if there's another business or another entity that wants to install or build something along in the same area as Amberwood, say they wanted to put some homes up or they wanted to put a business up, what would their fair share be? How would that be calculated?
Yeah, it would be the same calculation. They wouldn't be subject to this agreement, though. They would be subject to development impact fee schedule that we adopt at the time, which would also incorporate this estimated $5.4 million. But we just don't have the ability or the capacity to enter into individual agreements with every property owner that could potentially develop out there. And that's why we adopt those development impact fees. But this agreement, to your point, would not apply to anybody else except for this project. Yeah.
Got it. And so just understanding it at worst case scenario, we hit another economic meltdown, which I hope we never do. But if we would, the city would have a right to enforce its obligation and to get paid back in the event when they do sell the land or the city would be in first position. In other words, if that property changed hands or if it was sold or if someone took it over, how would that work? How would the city get protected?
Yeah, so I can't guarantee the city would be in first position because I don't know if there's any type of mortgage on the land or not. I have no idea. But as far as assigning the agreement actually requires that the city consent to any assignment of this agreement before it's actually done. So if they were wanting to sell the property that is associated with this agreement, the city would have to sign off on that. And
There's no assignment without agreement by the
Without-
city in
yes,
writing
correct.
prior to the assignment itself.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. And then in terms of the funding source, again, you know, I've been asking for a year for the local agency investment fund, and I haven't seen it. I saw that there's $23 million in that, but I haven't seen a breakdown of the funds. And as you know, we were told by Council Member Trujillo that there's $20 million in there that the city could use for any expense. Why don't we just, well, first I'd like to see the LAIF. I'd like to see the details. The mayor, I think I'd be entitled to that. But I haven't been shown it. But secondly, why don't we use some of that excess with $23 million? Let's do it. And let's spend it on development for residential. We need to do this. We need to move forward.
So the $24 million that's in LAIF is not under,
24 now?
it's roughly 23 or 20, I think it's 24, 23, sorry. Is not unrestricted free cash or unrestricted cash for the city. So that money is part of the general fund. So it's pooled cash. And finance or Deputy City Manager, correct me if any of this is incorrect. But it incorporates all, not just the required funds that are part of the general fund, but the enterprise funds, all the funds of the city are encapsulated in that number. That's just cash that we have that that we use for all the operations of the city. And so when we talk about the general fund balance, that $23 million is part of that balance. Our true general fund balance is about $14 million.
So we didn't have that, as Councilman Trujillo said, we did not have that full $20 million available. I think he used it in the context that the city hadn't given raises for years and years because they were holding on to that money, that $20 million. I believe that's what he said. In this context, I'm just looking at sources of funds, and you're saying that $23 million could not be used for any purpose that the city needed to use it for, but 14 million could.
Well, no, we wouldn't want to use the $14 million because that's our general fund balance. And so if we spent all that down, then we wouldn't have enough operating cash to fund the city's operations.
But that's not the, pardon me, but that's not the reserve.
That includes the reserve.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the LAIF, the Local Agency Investment Fund, includes the 15% reserve plus the 5% reserve on the general fund. Is that correct?
It includes, so so it's
The
important to know
emergency.
that LAIF is only one part of the general fund balance. So we have our checking account, we have our payroll account, we have our another internal account. We have the $4 million at Umpqua Bank that we transferred over with the POBs. So all of that makes up the general fund balance. That's correct, right, Deputy City Manager? And so all of that with our assets and liabilities totals to a general fund balance of $14 million roughly. And so that balance includes the general fund reserve, the operating reserve.
Which is what now? The reserve?
Well,
20%
the
of
last budget, we were at
15%.
about 60% reserve.
Okay,
Mhm.
so that's what, $3 million or something?
Probably
20%,
more than that.
15 million,
Probably looking at 5 million.
5 million
Yeah.
bucks. So we got 14 million bucks in there. We got 5 million we got to hold on to. That leaves 9 million. And then there's,
Fund operations.
yeah, we need 9 million to fund operations.
I mean, we're talking general numbers here. I mean, it's all very, if you want to if you want specific numbers on that, I mean, that we talk about that during the budget process and the financial.
And I believe that's when we
reports. Yeah.
said we were going to take a good hard look at the LAIF. So
Yes.
I'm hoping we'll continue
Mhm.
to go on that because I think it would be a great source of funds to look for this very, very worthy project that needs to get done along with the Ravens. We need to get these homes in.
Yeah, it's important to know the LAIF is not, I mean, technically it's unrestricted, but it's actually restricted as far as the pooled cash of the city. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
I'm next. Since my name was brought up about 15 times. Well, first of all, I came into office in 2016 and we talked about growth and we talked about development and we talked about what the ifs were in regards to development. And I'm pretty happy that we're bringing this back to the council's chamber to talk about what it takes to develop in this community. Think about this. We had about 12 years of discussions in regards to development in this community. And the bottom line is we needed infrastructure. I'm not here to pin points, but I will say this. We had a finance director back prior to this council that came one day, walked into the office, and we found $4.5 million. And that was the individual we were looking at and talking about what our finances were. So when we start questioning where our finances, and you have staff here that's been here for at least 6 months, and they're auditing books and they're looking at, truthfully, I give them my best for what they're doing. We get calculated people into this city staff to tell us what they have and what they don't have. You know, I can take the accusations of Councilman Trejo saying we got $23 million to spend, but in reality, saying things like, I'm ready to go. We're ready to go. We want to build. It doesn't take that. It takes the council to sit down and say, and to do an analysis and find out what's holding this city up. Think about this. We have a school district right now that has lost students of up to 30%. Why? Because they can't find a home and they can't find an apartment and they have to go to Kingsburg and Fowler. Is that their fault or our fault? It's our fault. What it is, it's a vision. The past leadership in the past didn't have a vision to find out and do analysis to find out what it was taking to build this community up. Thankful. 2 years ago, we found 2 council members who came in and said, and myself that said, we find this important to put a vote on to look at what we can find the resources to get infrastructure into this community. And we voted. We voted for infrastructure and we voted to say that we will take the risk. There's sayings of saying the window of opportunity, but there's another saying, you have to have greater risk to have a bigger payout. You have to have a risk as a developer and a community member that wants to build this community to invest in a developer of what they think. A developer doesn't come here and say, hey, a landowner doesn't say, I'm going to build 400 homes. He has to rely on the city council, the municipal government to say that they put in all the infrastructure that they have. The developer can't move without an infrastructure. You got 12, 15 years, you don't have a sewer plant, you don't have a sewer line, but you want them to build. How are you going to do that? You can say you want it, but if you don't have the staff and the ability to look forward to 5, 10, 20 years from now, you're not going to have that sewer. So when we start talking about, you can attack me all you want, but I do know one thing. The last 2 years, we've put in staff in place to make sure that we're going to make adequate decisions. That's going to make a prudent decision to make sure that we invest in this community and we get the developers, unhandcuff the developer and let them develop. And you know what? The risk is going to be high. I ain't going to lie to you guys. The risk has to be high. There's a risk right now. We're making a decision. But think about this. 12 years ago, the council could have voted on that risk also. We're still the same place, but there's no homes. That kid that played football 12 years ago wanted to live in Selma. He can't live in Selma. He doesn't have a home. So when you start asking what we're doing, I commend the Surimian family to have the risk. To have the risk, it's a risk. But it's our city staff also. And we look at our analysis. Tell you what, I'll be the first one to say, I'm not going to be satisfied with the city staff telling me how much we have until we do an audit. And we started an audit? We have. Why? Because we need to know for sure what we have. Excuse me. Here it is. I'm not here to pinpoint at anybody, but I am here to say this. I'm a community member and I believe in doing make sure our financial structure is solid, but we're going to have some risk. We're going to have some risk to make sure we have development, because development brings economic opportunity to the business owners, brings economic development to different areas. I commend them. I commend my staff. I also commend our council because at the end of the day, however we look at each other, we fight, whatever, we all have different viewpoints, and I'm not gonna get into the game of, the pinpoint, he said, she said. I'm gonna just say the truth. 12 to 14 years ago, this wasn't even thought of. There's council members that are sitting here outside that didn't even think of this. And right now, we've laid the foundation. We've done what we've done in 2 years. What we brought into, what we brought in here in 2 years, we brought in a loan structure with a development agreement. Everybody should be proud of that. Why? It's honesty. And we bring homes in, we bring people. So I'm just saying, in my part, I believe this is a strong, there's a risk to it, but there's a strong leadership role to show that we believe to build this community. And we're going to keep on doing it. We may have naysayers, we may have whatever we have, but this is the plan that this city council wants to take it to. I'm not pinpointing anybody, but I just want to make sure that we understand, just by saying something in regards to, I want to build fast, doesn't mean you're going to build. What staff do you have? You have a staff, yeah. You have a city finance director telling us he found $4.5 million. That doesn't work. We need staff in here that's educated, that can do the job, that can give us good information so we can go and we can do wise investments so we can have a good payout. I understand I'll be attacked, but I just need to say this because at the end of the day, this agreement means a lot to me. That's just one of the worst agreement. We as staff, we as council members should use our staff and our finances as tools to create more economic development for this community. So with that, thank you.
I'd just like to make some comments in regards to Councilmember Trujillo's inaccurate statements. There's not one council member up here that has been here for since 12 years to 14 years. That's inaccurate. The other thing is 12 to 14 years ago, the city was probably in this same capacity that we're in now. Now, you want to talk about attending council meetings? He never attended council meetings ever until he ran for council. So to know the history of Selma, you needed to attend council meetings and really know what was going on. And that's the actual facts. The other thing is, he did state, you went on record and you stated there was $23 million. We had $22 million. So we're saying, let's do it. I mean, we've been waiting for since I've been on here now going on 5 years, stating that we need to, and I've been very vocal in regards to getting housing up and running. We did have JG Gardner, their housing development. In fact, they're on their 3rd phase. So you can't say that we haven't had housing go up because that's a housing development. And they're on their 3rd phase. They're building their final 50 homes and they've already sold 12 lots, 12 homes. So there has been some homes development. The other thing is, enough is enough. I mean, let's move forward. We're here to move our city forward, and that's what we want to do. We hear all our constituents, our citizens, we do need homes. We need homes. So instead of saying we do have this, we don't have this, I agree. When we don't have it in front of us to say these are what's in our funds right now, this is exactly why we have to speculate. So I really hope that we get this information at our next budget meeting so that we can make solid decisions, so that we can move forward. Thank you.
I have a few things. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to our development presentation. We have 18 projects. 18. That's a lot for Selma. That's amazing. I was going to save my comments for my council report, but that's 18 projects. Out of those 18 projects, it's 1,669 homes, whether they're multifamily or single family or whatever it is, that's 1,669 homes. So that is, that vision that we need to have. Yes, we could have had this 10 years ago or 8 years ago or however long ago, but I commend staff for working as hard as they have been working on these 18 projects, working on these development agreements that we've been hearing about that we need to have. So I just thank staff for all of their hard work. Thank you, Mr. Sermian, for being patient with us, because I know it's been a while. We've been talking about this for a long time. But we're ready to move. One of the things that when I came on council, I said there's a bottleneck somewhere. That was the reason why I ran, was because I felt like something wasn't letting our city move forward. And so, there's obstacles, and the only way that I was able to see what those obstacles were was to actually be behind the scenes and figure out what can we do. And one thing that I will say, and I will repeat because I said it before, is I met a very wise woman that told me that it doesn't matter what position you have as an elected official, it's who you put in place to make those plans, come to fruition. We have amazing staff that has that vision of seeing for the future, because what we do today is not gonna, like these decisions that we're making today or these agreements that we're signing today are not gonna impact us tomorrow per se. They're gonna impact us in the next 10, 20, 30 years, even 50 years. Just the other day I was reflecting of Schaefer Park. I'm dating myself, but I remember I was in high school when we had Schaefer Park come along, right? And so now I'm going over there and I'm thinking, wow, 30 years. It took 30 years to get this bathroom remodeled, and it only cost $30,000. Imagine if we would have saved $1,000 every year for the next 30 years, we wouldn't have had to tap into too much of our, fees. But like, those are the things that putting staff in place that has that vision to think about the future, to think about not just what is it going to cost today, but what is it going to cost 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, and what other impact is it going to, have for, that has safety issues. We're not ADA compliant. We may not be ADA compliant in some things. We need to be there. As far as our students, yes, they're losing money because we don't have houses. So if we didn't plan accordingly 10 years ago, then that's why we have this huge impact today, because we didn't put in the infrastructure 10 years ago that we should have done in order for us to grow. And that's what cities like Fowler, Kingsburg, all our other neighboring cities, they saw that. They saw the importance of having that infrastructure about what's going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years. So I really commend staff for, moving forward with this and having that vision. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody from the public?
Jim Avilo, 1701 Dinuba. One thing I have to say is, I think the people that are in the investments, people that are property owners, especially Seremian family, to have the vision in the past and still have that vision, and to tough times when the economic downturn in our communities, not just our communities, but other cities around us, to the state of California. And the Serenian family stuck to the tough times. And this is going to be the good time for the Serenian family, because I know up there that the council, I'm confident you guys are going to move forward on these projects to help the Serenian family move forward and their vision in the community. Serenian had a vision way back then, and they never gave up hope. And I commend them, to know the family. They're good, hardworking people from the past, and they have a vision for the city of Selma. They never give up hope about our community here. This is their roots, and they have a vision to make the community strong. And anybody say, hey, forget about making houses, I can plant almonds. But they didn't do that. They had a vision to help the city of Selma community grow, put housing. And I commend them that, people like that, we have to give them a high five. And it's been a long time. And I thank Serenian family sticking with the tough time and carrying out that vision. Thank you very much. That's all I got to say.
Anybody else? Anybody online or on the phone? No? Okay, with that, we'll bring the matter back to the council. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 12, information regarding special events.
Sorry. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, I just wanted to give you all an update as to where we were with regards to the special events ordinance. We have to apologize. We were working on this diligently at the first of the year. However, we had an enormous tragedy that kind of, and then new staff coming online. So with that, we have been diligently working over the last 30 days with Jerome, our deputy city manager, as well as Amy Smart, our community services director, and myself to ensure that we could have an ordinance to bring forward and then meet with our public on May 10th. I believe it's a Wednesday, May 10th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers to have a workshop. But we want to make sure. Anyways, want to make sure that we had some guidelines in front of us that we could present to those members as we work forward. Additionally, I believe that once we meet with these, the community members in this workshop on May 10th, we should be able to have a quick turnaround to get something back to the council and get on the agenda, because we will have to adopt a new ordinance, or at least change or improvise or revise our ordinances to make it a little more legible and easier to find.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. I actually asked you to, or asked the city manager to put this on the agenda. The only reason why I wanted to make sure we don't drop the ball and kind of extend it. I think the summer's coming and I know that people are going to want to have special events. So it'd be good to have a clear vision so the council understands and we approve it and all the residents can have their fun and do their events. Thank you.
Yeah, and Chief, also just want to make sure this is for the pop-up events as well, correct? Because I know they were the ones that had brought it to our attention. And I thought from our last meeting, several meetings ago, that they were supposed to come up with this simplified form that they can just check off this, and I thought that we have agreed that we weren't going to charge or a $25 fee or something.
If I can answer that real quick, that was specifically just for one event, a previous event. That wasn't for all others. That was for a special event.
Okay.
So the item that we have been working on pretty diligently, it encompasses all of that, because it's really hard for us to just say, this is just about pop-ups. When now we go into mobile vending and we go into street vendors and we go to special events. So part of the reason that it has taken so long is when you start opening up, and pardon my analogy, but when you start opening up Pandora's box, you realize just how much this affects the city as a whole, and not just a pop-up or not just a mobile vendor. So that's what we've done. When we bring this ordinance forward to council, we want to make sure that it incorporates everything. So again, we're not coming back every 6 months and, oh, this came up and now we got to change this and now this. So we're working towards that. And that's why I think it's critical that we've had the different leadership involved in it, because it does, for me, special events will eventually come to my department. We will route all of them so that we're very customer service friendly. But then it'll be up to PD or code enforcement to enforce it. Community development, obviously, because it deals with business licenses and that sort of stuff.
So you're going to entail public works, police, your parks and recreation. You're going to entitle everybody, and there'll be a cost factor so we can make sure everybody's being represented.
Absolutely. And that's really what we're working towards, right? Is that united front where it's everybody sitting at the table discussing these changes, instead of it just being community services or just code enforcement. Or we want to make sure that our policies is as clear as possible, but also makes it very customer friendly for the residents so that they are able to do the things that they need to do. But then we also have the enforcement if it is needed.
Plus, the pop-ups are vital. Pop-ups are happening, street eats are happening. You know, we need to keep pace with the times. As Aristotle said, there are as many people as experiences. So no law or ordinance is going to encapsulate fully everything that the city is going to encounter. But like you say, as long as the ordinance is flexible enough to take account of those changes and the evolution of the times and customs and mores,
Correct.
then I think that'll be important. My point would be that pop-ups are something that the youth of the city is doing. Youth needs to be even more represented in our city, especially on our council. And I am thrilled about the youth, and I'm thrilled that they're stepping up and taking a role, a management role in our society, in our city, because they're the next generation. They get maligned all the time for living on their cell phones, but the ones who are coming to us want to do something. They want to sell something. They want to be in business. And I understand the older generations want to hold on and have their own interests to protect and their own businesses, you know, that they brag about to protect. But that's not the point of our city. It should be fair, like you say, it should be fair for everybody. It should give everybody an equal opportunity to get out there and experience the American dream and the Selma dream, which is equal opportunity for all. I just hope that the ordinance just doesn't squash people's dreams. It isn't just another law, another no, that we experienced a few months ago. It looked like, you know, those brakes were getting pumped on on this, and I'm not picking on anybody, but it seemed like the city was moving really fast to stop the pop-ups in their track. And now it seems like the city is being more reasonable, taking a more reasoned approach and coming up with some common sense rules like pop-ups in neighborhoods. Is that a good thing? Permits, the costs, as Councilmember Guerra so incorrectly brought up, if you overprice the permits, you're going to price them out. These are young people who need a chance. They need a leg up. They need an opportunity to get in and learn about business and to be able to display their wares and to go to this beautiful park that we have in Lincoln Park and all the parks we have, like Schaefer Park, which is, by the way, the last park we had in Selma. It's in Selma since 1989. That's a long time since we've had a park, but that's not the topic. The topic is, encouraging the people to come to Selma and make it a vibrant community, because it isn't just about houses. It's about everything. I know the last topic was all about residential development, and the city is all about residential development. And that's the way the direction of the city is right now. But there are other elements of the city that we have to pay attention to, like the youth and like business. Because let us not forget, my friends, that our city generates $9.5 million in sales tax revenue a year. We are a juggernaut of commercial growth. We saw from annexing what kind of property tax the city gets from annexing, a third of the property tax. City is not going to be successful just on property tax. We have to have a good mix. We have to take a look at this and encourage. And I think tonight, this information, I thank Councilmember Trujillo for snapping his fingers and getting this on the agenda, the next week, because it's really important to address this item of having street eats and the youth coming to our city and staying vibrant, because that's how the city is going to stay current. That's how we're going to attract people to our city, not by giving them a bunch of rules why they can't come display their wares or why they can't come display at a park, but how they can, how we can empower them, how we can empower folks to come to our city and make it a place to be. So I think this is very, very, very good news. And I'm looking forward to that workshop on Wednesday, May 10th at 6 p.m. to get some clarity to the rules so that, the folks who are doing the pop-ups can have some guidelines, but not be eliminated from doing their thing for the city and adding an economic and a vibrant layer of life to the community we so love. Thank you. Any other comments?
That was just an information only item.
Okay, did the community have anything they'd like to say at this time?
Louis Franco, 1064 Mill Street. Just in regards at this workshop, I mean, I heard the term pop-up. It's kind of a new term. I always thought a pop-up was like somebody goes rents a business and pops into a business for a week or a month. But I guess it refers to a street fair. Is that term pop-up going to be defined by the city? And in regards, I heard the mayor say that, are these pop-ups going to be paying sales tax they get business license to pay sales tax? So I don't know, is that the kind of question that are going to be addressed at the workshop?
Yes, so that is, again, when I say it's not one thing or another, these are all the things that we have to consider. And when we look at economic vitality, we do have to understand that these pop-ups, while they can be incredibly helpful, they do still have to provide business license and such to be fair with the rest of the community. So yes, we will be talking about that. Again, everything that we have put together is obviously not completed. We want to use this workshop to continue to mold what we're doing and get that feedback. But ultimately, yes, at the end of the day, that's what we're looking at, is how do we make the rules fair for everyone and still ensure that we are moving the city forward.
And then my apology, I have very bad hearing. May 10th, I didn't hear the time of the workshop.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, council.
Here in the council chambers. So, and we'll communicate that on social media and our city website. And I apologize, I didn't leave that, I left that out. But 6 p.m. here, May 10th in council chambers, and we will put that out on the city website as well as our social media forums.
And will this be a community event? Will this be a council meeting? Will this be publicly noticed? What is the format going to be?
This is purely a community event.
Just community event. Council members can of course attend or members of the community, but it won't be a meeting.
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody on the phone or online? Right. It's an informational item, so we'll move on to our last item of the evening, which is a public hearing item. This is the second reading and adoption of ordinance amending Title 4, Building Regulations, Chapters 1 through 5, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, and Title 7, Fire Regulations, Chapters 1 and 2 of the City of Selma Municipal Code relating to building codes.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is Trevor Stearns, Contract City Planner. This is more of an administrative ordinance. We're just kind of doing our due diligence housekeeping with this proposal here. As Mr. Mayor had mentioned, this is to amend specific chapters within the municipal code to bring it up to the current 2022 California Building Code. As mentioned, those specific sections, we have 13 of them, spanning through the building regulations title of our municipal code all the way to the fire regulations portion of our municipal code. So we'll be amending those just to reflect the newest California building code, as you're supposed to do after every 3 years a new one comes out. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what this item is. This is for the second reading and adoption. At the previous council meeting, we waived the first reading of that one. So just to be consistent with government code of the procedures for ordinances.
Thanks for that. Do we have any questions for clarification from the council members before we open the hearing to the public? Hearing none, we will open the hearing to the public and ask for any input from the public, pro or con at this time. We have anybody online or on the phone who would like to give their opinion on this subject? With that, we'll bring it back to the council chambers. Once, going twice, we will now close the public hearing, bring the item back to the council, and ask if there are any comments before I ask for a motion. Is there a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the ordinance amending Title 4?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. And with that, we will move on to staff reports. City Manager.
Just thank you to the staff. I know we've been extremely busy now that the weather has warmed up a little bit. You'll be seeing a lot more activity in terms of projects, but we've got some really exciting projects and things to discuss at the workshop on the 19th from 4 to 6 p.m. So the entire community is welcome to attend that workshop. Thank you.
And that would be the budget planning, the pre-budget workshop. Thank you.
That's correct.
City Attorney?
No update for me.
Thank you. Okay, Deputy City Manager, Administrative Services, Baines. Thank you. Do we have the Deputy City Manager, Developmental Services here tonight?
He's
online?
not available.
Okay. That will move to our Community Services Director.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Of course, I've got some things to update everybody on. First and foremost, the restrooms are open at Schaefer Park and we made the deadline of opening in time for girls softball opening day. So I'm very excited about that. Huge kudos to our public works team for getting that job done, working. You know, obviously, anytime you do any sort of renovation, there's things that come up and ways that you have to pivot. So I'm very excited those opened. We did have a ribbon cutting because why not have a ribbon cutting for a restroom grand opening? And one of the there's two really key moments for me. One was the giving the tours. We had community members come in, they wanted to check them out. And one of the moms said, now I don't have to walk my daughter across the street anymore to use the restroom. And so for me, it was such a powerful statement of just what an impact something like that could make. So if you guys haven't had a chance, please go check them out. They're colorful, they're fun. They've got great, I do apologize in advance. They are still these steel aluminum restrooms on the inside, but that's just because of industrial use. So if you do hear any complaints about that, there is a reason behind that. But it's really exciting to see what we've done over there. So I encourage you guys to go check it out. And then the second thing that we've done, my team has started identifying activities and events within the community that our department can get out and just start to talk to residents, see what they're interested in. What do they think about? What do they like? What kind of programs would they want? So one of the things this is just a very quick plug. You can't really see it from here, but our recreation coordinator created this for me. It says My Dream Park. And we were out there with the kids and they were drawing what their dream park would look like and different things like that. And it was such a fun activity. They had a lot of fun with it, but this one is actually going up on my wall and it's just a green circle. It's really hard to see. It was just by a little boy who drew a green circle. And I asked him, I said, well, what is the green circle? What is that all about? I said, he said, well, it's just grass, or he said, it's a circle, grass. And I said, okay. I said, well, do you want slides? Do you want swings? He just wants to run. And that's what he wanted. His dream park was just a place to run. So it was very centering for me as we start to design and plan that even at the end of the day, just these little places for children to run is important. So you're going to start seeing us out and about more out there, just engaging with the public and all of that, doing these sort of items. So I'm excited about that. And kudos to the team for making that happen. T-ball opening day will be in May. Our teams have been chosen. There's about 12 teams. Schedules, coaches are currently being background checked and all of that. So you guys can start that season in May. 2 weeks ago, we did attend the conference. Liz and I attended the conference, and again, would like to thank council, city manager for allowing us the opportunity to go. We learned a ton in those 4 days that we were there, and some things I was able to bring back some things that I think will be really helpful. Pickleball courts. So we are in the process, and I just want to kind of communicate this in the event that anybody has any questions. They are currently being repaired. There's some pretty large cracks in the ground that are being repaired. It's a several stage process. So if you're hearing anything that says they don't look great today, well, it's because it is a process and it's in works. However, we have had some instances, unfortunately, of some pickleballers sneaking in, even though the things are signed, the signs are up and the gates are locked. So if we could just continue to encourage people if they're locked, stay out, that would be fantastic, so that we can finish that repairs. April 26th, we will be hosting a workshop here in council chambers at 6 p.m. That will be to discuss with the residents the new park going in at Thompson Avenue, and to get the community's feedback on that location, as well as communicate that grant did get official approval to move the location. So we will be hosting that April 26th, again, here, council chambers. It is just a workshop, so it is not a meeting. It's just a community informational event where we'll talk about all those things. With that, I would like to plug David, our city engineer, and thank him for his help with this project. Obviously, as a community services director, I get very excited about playground equipment and park space and green space. However, infrastructure and all of that eludes me. So thank you, David, for explaining that and helping me figure that process out. I truly appreciate it. And last but not least, in true community services, we are adapting and overcoming. So this Arbor Day, we decided let's plant some trees in Lincoln Park. Public Works was donated 14 trees, and as you guys know, a tree destroyed the senior center. So we're going to plant some new trees. So if anybody wants to join us, April 28th at 9 a.m., we'll be hosting just a small little celebration and planting some trees in Lincoln Park. So that is all I got. Thank you, everybody.
Any update on the reader board at Rose and McCall?
I'm sorry, what?
The reader board at Rose and McCall?
No update. We have been trying to get updated quotes on that because the last time that we got quotes was last year during the summer. And so we're still working on that, but we'll include it in the next year's budget as well.
Amy, what time is your workshop? You said April 26th, but what time?
6 p.m.
All right, thank you. Fire Chief Peterson.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. City Clerk, Public Information Officer.
Mayor, council members, members of the public and online viewers. This is Spring Cleanup Week as a reminder. So Spring Cleanup Week has started today and will go through Saturday, and the location is at the Waste Management Transfer Station. The freeway project that Caltrans has been working on, Caltrans will be hosting an information session this Thursday at 4 p.m. here in the council chambers. The information session is set for businesses to discuss the project, answer any questions, and address any concerns that businesses or the general public would have. If you have any questions regarding that, I would be happy to get that information from Caltrans. As a reminder, I know we briefly touched on this earlier. The FCRTA groundbreaking will occur this Friday at 10 a.m. I'm excited to announce that members of the Selma High Choir will be singing the national anthem.
Nice.
And just a reminder, the Golden State Boulevard project continues to be delayed, and we're looking at June, July timeline.
Thank you.
And that's all. Thank you.
Police Chief Alcaraz.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted to first start by thanking the committee members of the Selma Good Water that had the Selma Sikh Parade. Goodness gracious. On Sunday, they were very accepting of our new ideas on how we could make this event much safer. And so I'm very appreciative of that. It was a great time. In addition to that, on Saturday, we had the Cowboy Honor Ride here in the city of Selma. We had a great attendance, I thought, and we had horse riders all the way from Sacramento, if not further north, all the way into our county. And it was just a great way that people wanted to come and pay respects to Gonzalo and his family and their sacrifice. So it was great for our staff to see that community support all the way from beyond Selma and Selma's additionally. So I just want to thank them all for that. And in addition to that, I want to thank Yamabi and Horn and their generosity. They'll be drawing up the plans for the memorial, which then we can get out to the contractors, which we hope will be able to facilitate this memorial and have it completed by the end of August. So we've had a tremendous amount of community members that want to donate towards this memorial. And that was a big reason that we asked to do it this way, because we've just had so many people reaching out, wanting to help in their specific way. And this gives them the ability to do that and feel like they had, they were engaged and were involved in this, this memorial, which is for a great young man. So I just want to thank you all.
Can donations still go to the PD, or do they need to go to another source now, or where do they go?
So donations can come to the police department. Additionally, the Selma Chamber of Commerce has opened up a means for people to donate there. So if there are people that want to get a tax write-off, they can do so. At the Selma Police Department, we do not have a legitimate 501c, or I should say a 501c3 that allows for tax write-offs.
Got it. Thank you. Council reports. Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
So I just have a few things. One of the things that, on a personal note, I had to take a trip to Arizona, not for a good, like a fun reason, but when I was there, I actually had the opportunity to go see my niece at, play softball. And one of the things, I guess, just like Councilmember Guerra says, she's a visual person. I didn't realize certain aspects, I'm a visual person as well. There was a sports complex there, and it was, I don't know, like the acreage or anything like that, but it was kind of in a neighborhood, kind of a commercial area, but it did have two baseball fields and 2 softball fields. And then they had like 10 soccer fields. So now I can see what our park over at Thompson possibly could look like. So, and then they had, of course, the snack bar right in the middle, and the plenty of parking. And so it was just a really nice place, and I could see where kids could just run around, and I could just envision that in Selma. So that I wanted to just bring that out there, that it's good. I'm excited for things that are coming. So I did attend the ribbon cutting, although I wasn't there for the ribbon cutting part, but I had grandkids that morning. So, but it was nice to see, the community come out, and yeah, we did have those complaints. Well, the bathrooms are still the same, or the toilets are still the same. But, it does look nice. It does look nice, and it gives that feeling of, it's going to be safer, and the material that was used, was very well thought out and planned, to make sure that we keep this for the long term, with little maintenance. And, we did talk about, a lot of the deferred maintenance, deferred projects that we've had. And so that's where, those things, me as a property manager or, housing manager, seeing my units, we have to keep them going so people can live. And so you have to think about those costs, about not just let's build it, but what is it going to take to maintain those buildings in the long run? And so, you have to think about that. So I commend staff for having those visions as well, and having those thoughtful conversations. And, because you do have to be fiscally responsible. Just because, oh, so-and-so can do it. Yeah, but how much is that so-and-so costing you to do it? An analogy that I used with somebody told me one time, and at the time I was kind of, what do you mean? How much money is in this room? I attended a meeting, and I had a meeting of a bunch of executives. And then, the feedback I got was, how much money was in that room? How much money were you spending in that room to give them, whatever information you were giving them? So basically it was, give them the information in 15 minutes or less, because they're costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars, during that time. So those are things that we have to be, responsible for. I also, I did attend the meet and greet with Chief. I took my grandkids out there. They were so excited to see PD and fire department. So that was exciting for them. And it was just exciting to see, some community members out there as well. I did, stay for the Cowboy Honor ride for Officer Carrasco Jr. And that was just really nice. I didn't realize that they had all of these things, or these events for fallen officers, or just, it just brought the community together. I did attend the Sikh parade, and that event, it just really touched my heart, because we have an amazing community, and it's just not this community or that community. Like, it's the Sikh community, but in the long run, we're the Selma community, and we all come together to, support each other. And we have an amazing community here in Selma, and it's just great for us to expand it. And again, I just want to thank staff for just everything, the development, and just again having those thoughts in the forefront of the future, what the future looks like, and sticking to that vision, and just working together. And all of us are working here, even though we may not get along or what have you. We're all here for the common goal of moving the city forward. We have 18 developments, like I said, or 18 projects. 2 of those are commercial, and those commercials are going to bring a lot of business. So, aside from the 16,000 homes or units, but yeah, that's basically all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Trujillo?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to just, congratulate you, the staff on the ribbon cutting at the Schaefer Park bathrooms. I wasn't able to attend. Right now, my job is really, really busy. I also didn't attend the meet and greet, and I apologize for that. I want to just say great job to our staff. You guys very limited. I understand. And great job on all the work you guys are doing, all the presentations. They all meet my expectations, and that's what I've always dreamed to make sure we have good presentations, good follow-up, and good information. Doing your due diligence is, excellent. For that, I commend all of you. I commend for everything that you guys are working on, and we're, all the, the outreach. It's really important. I'll state this. It's really important that we go out there and meet our community members, our businesses, and talk to everybody, because right now our community still needs to have more outreach. I attended the Sikh parade, took my wife, and she ended up buying an outfit, and she's very happy about that. We had a really good time, a pretty good amount of group. We took a group with us and we had a great time. It shows that we can go to another group of religion and see what they celebrate and have a good time. This is probably my third time, and I thank Nick Soda for explaining to me everything that goes on and why, when, where. Why is there a person holding a big pole? And I mean, he explained everything, and I really appreciate that, because there's meaning to that. But most of all, the people that were selling, they were really helpful. They were really generous and really, really talkative. And, they just love coming. And for me, that's more important, knowing that there's people out there that are wanting to, have a good, and a lot of these people that I've seen, I've worked with them in the past, as a business owner here. So it was really, really, really fun to go out there and associate myself with them, and, try to just, break bread with them and have a good time. But, I want to go back to our city staff. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Congratulations on everything you guys are doing. Keep your head down, keep doing it. This is, we have a really big picture. We have small little pictures and we have really big pictures. Every day you'll see the small pictures, but in reality, we have 5, 10, 20, 30-year pictures, right? And we're working on them. We work on this side on them. You guys work on that side, the end of it. Our job is to look and have budget meetings and appropriate money and talk to you. And hopefully we all have the same, we don't agree, but we just go. For that, I thank you guys again. I really am really proud of every one of you guys. So I thank you guys for that.
Member Guerra?
Okay. I also attended the Cowboy Honor Ride to honor our fallen officer, Gonzalo Carrasco Jr. It was a very nice event. I mean, I give so much kudos to the volunteers for doing it. And the riders and the horses did a great job. So it was a really great event, very emotional. I also attended the Sikh parade on Sunday, and it was a beautiful event. I've been going out for about 6-8 years, and the people are just so loving, and they make you feel like family. They really do, and very generous, just like the council members have stated. They want to feed everybody, and it's amazing. But it's Selma. We have a variety of individuals, and that's who we are. We love each other, and there might be some, like we say, some disagreements, but overall we come together, and that's what we're there for each other. But again, just like what we saw when, for the Cowboy Honor Ride, that was an amazing time. And I know I got to talk to Chief, and we talked about future events that are coming as well. So we're going to see a lot of change, and these projects are amazing. And I'll tell you, I'm going to continue to be vocal, because that's what I do, but it's coming. We're going to keep working at it. So I mean, I give kudos to the staff. I want to say how amazing our parks look. Even downtown, the areas where I'm sure it was probably not the responsibility of Public Works to clean up, but they did it anyway. Because they felt in their heart that they had to look, to make that look clean and look nice. Just because we knew we were having, this honor guard. So I give them so much kudos because I know that they're understaffed and they're working with less people, but they do it because they do it with their heart, So kudos to everybody, Every staff member gives it 100%, and I really appreciate that as well. Only complaint I did get, because I seem like I don't go without getting complaints, but the yard sale signs. My understanding is I thought that they couldn't put yard sale signs on the, like the poles, telephone poles, or they couldn't put it on the fence, and they can't put it on people's property. Like a big box. Is that still true? I mean,
Correct. You can't post any signage on stop signs, city signs, utility poles. And then if you are putting on private property, you would have to have permission from that person or from that property owner.
okay. But are we as a city doing something about it? Because they're saying that it's still happening.
So, yes, we are.
Okay.
So we're picking up those signs. I've instructed my staff. When they obviously when they come across these items, we are getting our new code enforcement officer up to speed, and we actually was coming out on some Saturdays dealing with that. But what I will say is, because this has not been enforced for so long, it's extremely I don't want to say unmanageable, but it's just been, it hasn't been enforced. So when you haven't enforced something for a very long time and you start to enforce that, then people see, well, you're enforcing it here, but you're not enforcing it there. It's just, there's a large amount. If we could all agree, and we're doing our best to kind of get our rounds through the city, and in the same token, not overwork our code enforcement officer, because typically they're Monday through Friday type of position. So we're working on those things and what those are going to look like, how we kind of patrol and enforce those regulations or ordinances.
That's it for me.
But I will say it's a pet peeve of mine.
I know.
So I have 1 million yard sale signs in my trunk. So I assure you, the more that we can manage this, the less I will have in my trunk, and I would be a much happier person. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I do want to thank the staff for working so hard, and this project update is really great. They're showing us what Selma's future is going to be. So thank you so much for all that hard work on it. I did attend the ribbon cutting on the new bathrooms. It's the first time I ever did a ribbon cutting for bathrooms, but that's on my list now. It's state of the art, easy to clean. It has been a long time coming. So very good project. I was able to see the troops with the horses. It came actually right by my house. So I was out there taking pictures and waving it at them. It was really pretty cool. I did attend the 29th annual Sikh Day celebration. It was a very great sharing event with a amazing culture of people and unity and peace. So it really felt, even though it's like thousands of people, but you can still feel, the love and the peace of the people. And I think we, as all mixtures of people, that's what we're all supposed to be at. There is a mixture this week on the 15th. No, not the 15th, Wednesday. It's the Central Valley Engineering Surveying by Nick Dakota. It's going to be their 15-year anniversary. So if you guys have time, go by and say congratulations. The big graduation is going to be Saturday. This is called the Golden Grads. And basically it's for people, everyone that's graduated over 50 years. And it's like 400 people in attendance. It'll be in Abraham Lincoln School. So I just dated myself, so. And that's it. Thank you.
Right. Leslie Nelson wanted me to mention that there will be a cleanup Earth Day this Saturday from 8 to 12. And they will be meeting at the Lincoln Park if you'd like to join to beautify our town. The Selma Maintenance Facility groundbreaking will happen this Friday. I too attended the Nagar Kirtan Annual Parade at the Sikh Temple. It's all about rebirth. It's about recreation. It's about getting along. It was an amazing mix of cultures there and people who respected each other. And, you know, there are always going to be people who try to control the proceedings. But they didn't allow that. They just let everybody be who they were. And it was a beautiful event with the helicopters spreading the flowers. And I thought the city did an amazing job and public safety did an amazing job of keeping everybody safe out there. So thank you to the city, thank you to staff, and thank you for everything that you guys do. You work so hard for our city and it doesn't go unnoticed. I want to thank the people of Selma. I get your comments. I really do. And I hear what you're saying and I'm here and I will continue to watch the money. I will continue to watch the money and I'll be there for the budget meeting and I will look and request for that LAIF again. I will keep looking at that. So I think that's very important that we look at these sources of funding in other areas. And I appreciate your comments and keep letting me know your areas of concern about the city as well. I had issue from Western Highway Traffic Truck Products. They inquired about the status of their business license. They applied over 4 months ago and they're a business partner in Selma and they've had gotten no response from the city. So I just wanted to note that if I could. I will be attending on Wednesday before this budget meeting, the draft budget meeting for SKF, our Sewer Sanitation Facilities District. And the draft budget, just so the public knows, the proposal is for the rates to be increased for Selma from $515.95 to $533.50 per year. My meeting's on Wednesday. So if anybody has any comments they would like to make or like me to raise any concerns, or if you would like to tell me how you want me to vote, I can't promise that I will do that, but I can promise that I will listen to you. So anybody, including council members who would like to approach me individually and find out more about this very important budget item that we all pay into and our citizens pay into and keeps our city going underground. This is a very important part. We talked about it tonight. The sewer is an important component of our infrastructure. And so I welcome any comments or any input. With that, we will go to our community for our last oral communications. Does anybody have anything to say at this time before we call it an evening?
Louis Franco, 1064 Mill Street. Mr. Mayor, I have when you go to SKF, I have a comment. If you could inquire on something, since you brought it up. Many years ago, remember they said they were doing all this videoing taping to find out the exact condition of our.
When you were on the council?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was on the council, they started, maybe a year later, they said, remember they gave us this strategic replacement plan and had all the red lines with but they said they really didn't know the actual condition of the sewer lines because they had what they call videotape it or CCTV it.
Yeah.
And they said that was going to take a couple of years. Well, it's been a couple of years. Could you inquire if they have completed that and what were the results of that?
Yep.
And maybe they can give us a more updated, realistic condition of the infrastructure.
I sure will. I'll bring it back to the next council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Anybody else?
1057 Mill Street, Rose Robertson. I'm just calling and inquiring of the body cams. I know I want to thank our chief, Alcaraz, by stating, citizens are paying attention and very shocked. A lot of them very much not aware that we don't have them. So I'd like to think that the actual amount is out there, $193,000 match. So let's see what happens with the budget. But I know that they're waiting for a grant. However, I think our first responders deserve, especially our new officers, deserve body cams so they could help with the liability off the city and off of themselves. Again, like a lot of the citizens are stating, cameras do not lie. Our officers deserve the best. As you know, a lot of citizens have been watching the video on one of the officers actually holding a camera. They should actually have both hands ready with more training, but definitely the body cams. I saw Jim Costa yesterday. A lot of citizens will be calling him and saying, help us with that grant on that 193. We had council members up here able to pass and vote on $160,000 on chairs and desks. We should be able to also do that with body cams because our officers and our first responders deserve the very best. And if that grant comes through, we could always put that grant towards the 193 matching. Again, our officers deserve the very best. And again, also another question would be, where are we with internet? We seem to be behind with internet services. I know when the COVID happened, a lot of kids didn't have internet. Our internet's really bad in our area. So let's not get behind on the technology with the internet. Let's see where we are with that, the underground on internet. Thank you.
Anybody else with any comments this time? Anybody online or on the phone? All right, with that, we'll bring it back and adjourn this meeting.